Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week. This is the show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between. Now, before I start this episode, I do have the Kickstarter for my comic book, They Call Her the Dancer, out. It's about a young woman who's a dancer slash assassin, and when she was little, she witnessed her parents being murdered in front of her and never dealt with that trauma until now. And of course, in the comments below, let me know your pick of the week, because at the end of the episode, we do the viewer's pick of the week. And hopefully you guys could comment, like, and subscribe, because it really does help the channel. Now, let's jump in. This is a really small haul for me. Same thing for next week. I think it's just because of the 5 Wednesday deal for this month. So I only have 7 books this week, but there are some really big books this week. So let's get started. Number 7 for me is one of those big books. I was actually pretty disappointed to see this so low, and that is Teen Titans Academy issue 1. I've been really looking forward to this book. I'm excited to see all the Red X storylines. I did a video about it a couple of months ago about who I thought Red X was, and I'm still very curious about that, and I think that was the heart of the book. That's what I enjoyed most of the book, was the mystery of Red X, and also showing that Red X has existed in this universe, and that Dick Grayson was the first Red X. I thought that was cool. The thing that brings this lower is honestly the dialogue. I thought it was very heavy and just very crowded. It made me not be able to focus on the artwork. It was just so much dialogue and so many characters. It was kind of hard to pinpoint a favorite, just because there wasn't a lot of moments to shine, even for the characters we already know. I do like the X-Men vibe to it, though, especially because we have the stuff going on with Krakoa. We don't really have the classic X-Men school storyline, so it's interesting to see that DC Comics is kind of giving us that. So I enjoyed that. I like seeing, students like Roundhouse come back. I guess maybe Crush and Red Arrow are students as well. And then, of course, all these new students. And the mystery of Red X, like I mentioned, was very interesting. But yeah, I was a little disappointed with this one. I hope that we get to see a bit more character. I did like Stitch. I liked her kind of one-liners here and there. But definitely going to give more of a try, and hopefully I get into the characters a bit more. And it's interesting because I'll talk about another first issue run that came out this week, and I thought there were a lot of new characters introduced, but the way it was introduced, it was a little easier to dive in, and maybe even with the dialogue for that book that I'll talk about later. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 62. And this feels like a very filler arc. It has to do with Boomerang and Spider-Man's pet, Gore, or Gore, something like that. And he is about to die. That was the cliffhanger of the last issue. And we get to see, of course, he survives. He turns big, and it's kind of this Godzilla, King Kong storyline for half the issue. And then Boomerang and Spider-Man realizes, okay, our pet's in danger. Kingpin knows about our pet. Let's keep him safe. So MJ has the pet for a little while. And then, in the mixture of all this, we do have a J. Jonah Jameson and Robbie as well, dealing with some Daily Bugle stuff. And, of course, with Spider-Man's other roommate, we get to see that he's still dating the Beetle. And Tombstone and Robbie clashing heads because of it. So that was a pretty good cliffhanger, but it all was very, I would even say forgettable. I felt like it was very by the numbers. Even the character moments just didn't have a lot of meat to it. It just was a fine issue for me. I like this direction a little bit more than the Kindred stuff, but there just wasn't a lot there to get excited about, and there wasn't any really exciting character moments besides maybe 1 or 2 offhanded jokes and maybe the cliffhanger. Artwork overall is pretty solid. I like Patrick Gleason's work for this book, and it's nice to see his work. But I kind of wish there, again, was a little bit more emotion to be utilized with his pencils. It definitely was more of an action issue and more of a comedy issue. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 6. Alright, up to number 5, and that is Scumbag, issue 6. And this is just a fun book. This one we get to see our Scumbag is the hero of the story, and he's definitely reveling in the lie that he's telling, because he's still a scumbag and he's still kind of double-crossing our heroes here. But it's really him lavishing in that light, building up the cast a little bit more, and that's pretty much what it was. This was very much a point A to point B issue. Some fun, interactions overall, but this wasn't a huge issue. So overall, I'm going to give this one 3 stars. It is my number 5. Oh, I do like the artwork, though. I think it's a really fun book, and there's a lot of great character interactions in that one. Moving on to number 4, which is Power Rangers issue 5. And this was definitely a very heavy sci-fi issue, kind of reminiscent of Star Wars, because we get to see Red Ranger and the Black Ranger, Zach and Jason. They go off and do this kind of poker game in the middle of this issue, and they meet up with one of the other Power Rangers in the lore. I forget her name. I think it's Astronema. Hopefully I pronounced that right. So she shows up. She's, from, I think Power Rangers in Space, I believe. And then we also even get to see Power Rangers SPD. So it's really cool to see the different franchises collide here, and especially a very different world. This is more of a cosmic world. It's off Earth. So I like seeing, just building mythos within the Power Rangers comic. So that's really was the positive for me here. And also there's some good character moments between Trini and Lord Draken. It's always fun to see them interact because they're just such different characters with different moral compasses. And I like Trini was more the mechanic here, because that's also what she's known for, next to Billy being the mechanic / engineer. So I enjoyed that aspect as well. Overall, I thought it was a fun issue. It might not have been exactly my cup of tea because it was so heavy sci-fi, but as a Power Rangers fan, I enjoyed seeing different references and seeing where that takes us. So I'm giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Cable issue 9. I'm sad to see the series go, just because I feel like the plot hasn't moved that much, and I wanted a bit more from this series, but the character interactions are so much fun. Especially in this issue, Cable really interacts with a lot of characters as he tries to get Strife. And yes, it kind of gets boring, the plot, because it's like, okay, we get it. You want to find Strife, but the characters really liven up this issue, where we get to see Cable and Emma interact, and Emma has so many wonderful one-liners. I really liked his interaction with Ileana here, her going to the Inferno, and her just being the boss lady was really fun. Even interactions between his family, like Rachel, we get to see a little bit of, but Hope especially as his kind of daughter showing up and them relating to the idea that the older Cable is gone, but they still need the older Cable, and attaching those pieces of seeing the older Cable in almost every issue, but not really doing much with it. So again, plot-wise, not a lot's happening here, and I don't know if I'm fully invested in this Strife / baby story, but I want to see old Cable and see where it goes, and obviously where this series ends up. And the character interactions were a lot of fun, and the artwork overall was pretty solid. There were some off facial expressions here or there, but I really like the color palette and the overall tone of the artwork here. So I'm giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is Batman Harley Quinn, or Batman White Knight Harley Quinn, issue 6. And this is the last issue of this miniseries. And honestly, I think the best of the miniseries, because we really dig even deeper into Harley's relationship with Joker and how she separated herself from this version of the Joker, and how that relates to our main character and her son. And I liked really seeing the parallels of those relationships, and also just seeing Harley and Batman interact. Harley gets a new suit in this issue, but really the heartstrings here is Harley losing her pet, and how she deals with that, and how she embraces that with her new costume, and really not just be a sidekick, but also just be a hero of Gotham, which I really enjoy. The artwork is always really solid for this book, and even though I didn't love the villain for the story, I enjoyed Harley's overall heroic story. This is probably the most we've ever seen her as a hero, because this is an Elseworld story, and I enjoyed seeing the more budding relationship of Batman and Harley in this book as well, and excited to see where the White Knight universe goes after this, if it goes anywhere after this, which I think it will. Seems like it's been a pretty successful franchise. So I'm giving that 4 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, which is Detective Comics issue 1034. I really enjoyed this book. I was really looking forward to it. I'm a huge fan of both creators, Mariko Tamaki and Dan Mora. And I enjoyed their Dark Detective run as well for Future State. And this one really doesn't let you down. If you've been enjoying the Batman stuff, it really ties into it nicely with the aftermath of the Joker War, but especially the aftermath of Batman not being rich anymore and what life looks like as Batman. And we get to see these little small moments building to that, like him having a cave literally in the sewers, him having a brownstone. I mean, he's still rich, but or at least able to live the lavish lifestyle. But this interacts him with people. You know, Batman hates people. Bruce Wayne doesn't like interacting with them, but here he has neighbors. He has people he needs to deal with. And that ties us into our first story arc where it looks like one of the heirs is missing and is hurt. And we actually, and referencing my number 7 to my number 1, I was talking about how Teen Titans Academy has a lot of characters, but it didn't do a great job introducing them. I feel like there's too many of them and I didn't get to see their voices. Here there's a lot of characters with especially the rich elite, and Mariko does a really good job at introducing them, where we get to see, okay, this is, in a few sentences, this is what this girl does, this is what this guy does, and this is how they're related to the Gotham's rich, and there's just enough characters. There's about 5 characters where you can kind of grasp the idea of who everybody is, and also the very clean artwork of Dan Mora helped that a lot as well. And this is also, of course, kind of like our classic detective story of, well, who done it? Out of all these people that are introduced, someone out of them had to do it, and what's their motive. And this is going to bring us into our main villain as well. So I really enjoyed this issue, and going into even our secondary story, which was the Robin story, had some really great cliffhangers and a really good introduction to a book I was already really looking forward to, which was Robin, dealing with the whole League of Assassins stuff and building that mythos. But we get to see the shocker that Connor Hawke is back, and he's going to be part of that book. So I really enjoyed the Robin story. I really enjoyed the main story, and it really gets me excited to be a Batman fan and to read more and see how all this is super connected. And I feel like we haven't had that in a while with Batman. So I really enjoyed this issue, and I can't wait to see where it goes. So a really great intro here. I give that 4.5 stars, and that is my pick of the week. Now, going into the viewer's pick of the week from last week, and that was Nightwing, issue 78, which was also my pick of the week from last week as well, and here are some comments about that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Definitely follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Go check out my comics like Father Like Daughter and They Call Her Dancer. And every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time is Comic Book Weekly, where we discuss our favorite comics and comic book news. Thanks, guys. Bye.